Hey, what's up, everybody? Fred Minnick here, and today I'm going to review a pretty fun and special release, and that is a first release from a distillery that's been producing sourced whiskey for the past few years, and that is Preservation Distillery. Now, Preservation is in Bardstown, and they give great tours. They've got some good barrel picks that are out there, a lot of great single barrels, and they do the Old Man Winters. What is it? Old Man Winters? Get the little old man on there. It made my top 100 last year. And they actually won the San Francisco World Spirits Competition with this guy right here. That's a pure antique, and that's what I'm going to be tasting first. Now, this is a 20-year-old, 115.4 proof. Now, I'm no longer a part of San Francisco. I was a judge with them for nearly a decade before the pandemic kind of broke that up, and I started my own spirits competition called the Ascot Awards. I still have a lot of great friends who are judges for San Francisco, and I'm very much friends and have the utmost respect with the competition itself. And I'm very thankful for the opportunity they gave me many years ago when I was a young and up-and-coming taster, because I probably wouldn't have much of a tasting career if it wasn't for San Francisco. So, Andy Diaz Blue, may he rest in peace. I hope you're watching this review from up above. So I'm going to taste what won Best Bourbon at San Francisco. This is my first time tasting it, actually. This was just released to the public, I think, in Kentucky. I think it was their other product. And anyway, I know the one I'm going to taste last was just released in Kentucky. Okay, this smells amazing. So this is the pure antique. Let me see if I'm going to put this up here. Can you see that? Oh, it's going to fall down. Doesn't matter. So, smells like a caramel bomb. Very, figgy. Got like that tree fig smell to it. Got some chocolate coming out of the oven. Chocolate pie. Chocolate bread. Chocolate. Just put a chocolate bar in a cast iron skillet and throw it in there and throw some breadcrumbs. I don't freaking know. It's Chocolate City. A lot of chocolate on this. Okay, I'm going to taste it now. I'm smelling it. Oh, man. More chocolate. A lot of walnut in here, too. I can see why this won San Francisco. Yeah, I've got this theory. Competition bourbons that, bourbons or whiskeys that do really, really well in competition have one very powerful note and a bunch of subtle notes. That powerful note can stand out after you've tasted, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 120, 130, 140, even as many as 200 spirits in a day. Like your palate, we're human, and it's going to get fatigued. So like if a whiskey has one big concentrated note, it can really, really stand out. And this concentration of chocolate in this pure antique 20-year-old, that is going to be something that catches a lot of people's attention in a tasting. So I can see why this won San Francisco. It has a lot of the elements that you look for in a great whiskey for a competition. Now, what would I rate this individually on its own? You know what? I mean, this is going to be a whiskey in the 90s. This is very good. Kind of reminds me a little bit of some of the 15-year-old barrel blends. That one of them in 2018 was my best whiskey of the year that year. That 15-year-old gray label that they came out with reminds me a lot of that. Yeah, solid, very good, and I can see why it won San Francisco. Now, this is the one I'm actually more excited to taste. And that is their estate pot distilled bourbon Now this is a wheated bourbon cask strength. There's no age statement attached to it, but it's 114.6 proof. So it's pot distilled. And for those who are new into the bourbon scene, pot distillation, will tend to leave a lot more oils from the grain. They get distilled. They tend to be distilling at lower proofs than a column still. And there's also a greater hands-on approach to pot distillation. So pot distillation is not automatic. A lot of things have to be hand-fed into it. You don't have as much, automatic cleanliness to it. Sometimes you got to get an actual sprayer in there or a steamer. Like the way that they clean the pot still is very different than how they would clean a column still. And the truth is, cleanliness of a distillery is probably is the most important factor to keeping a consistent tasting whiskey. Because if you have one piece of grain that gets stuck somewhere, or you have a rodent infestation, which I've been to distilleries that have had rodent problems, and as well as bug problems, that stuff collects in the pipes, it collects in the stills, and it collects in the little pockets where you have screws hanging out. All that stuff can have an impact on the flavor. Now the question is, have we ever drank a rodent? That's to be answered for another day, and that's actually pretty disgusting when I think about it. I don't know if I want to drink this whiskey now, because I'm now thinking about drinking a rat. That's gross. All right, I gotta move on. All right, moving on. Okay, a lot of cinnamon. So the first thing that I'm looking for this is their first release that they distilled. From my understanding, if I read that wrong, I apologize, but that was my understanding, is the first thing that they've released that they have distilled. And the first thing that I'm looking for to see if there's smells that are like kerosene or rubber, or like oak city, like too much oak, or rubbing alcohol, varnish, things like that. Those would be what we would consider flaws, and you know what? Probably needs more time in the barrel to get rid of some of that stuff. Smell none of that. So first release on the nose, so far so good. Cinnamon, which is a note that a lot of us want to smell when we're smelling whiskey. I just typically don't get it when I smell wheated bourbons. So maybe that's a sign of that pot distillation technique. I don't know. Here we go. That's pretty friggin' good. Now, that is really my jam. I feel like this bourbon was made for my palate. Holy crap. All encompassing of my tongue. Just entirely encompassing. Really focused on the mid palate. Lots of bread, yeast rolls. There's this beautiful yeast roll note in there. Some caramel, some cinnamon, some nutmeg, some pecans, little oatmeal and brown sugar. This is splendid. This is absolutely splendid. Wow. For a first release that they distilled, I can't think of a better first release for a distillery. Wow. So kudos to making something pretty great. And I'm actually going to use that word. I'm using great. This is, for a first release, this is great. I would say though that when you have a business, sometimes you want to leave yourself some room to grow. This is not a release of of a brand that, you know, only thing is up. Only where to go is up. Like, they could hit some stinkers after this one because this is really friggin' good. Always a danger, I suppose. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. Of course, these are the little sample bottles I get, so I don't have a full bottle. But, wow. I think this is the second pot distilled bourbon this year that's really like grabbed my tongue. Old Stubborn is another one that did that, and it just kind of like grabs my tongue in a very vicious, viscousy, holding on to the middle of the palate, curling in underneath the jawline, tickling the tip of my tongue a little bit, tickling the back of the tongue a little bit, giving me a little hint on the roof of my palate. It just stays on the tongue for so long. And just even now, it's still on my tongue. Just fantastic pour. So I would actually tell you, like, hey, like, this is fine, and I'd say it's probably, people are going to be hunting the pure antique 20-year-old, and people will be going batshit crazy for it. But I would say, I would actually personally, I would buy the estate pot distilled preservation over a 20-year-old. I know that's going to sound insane, but I prefer to support a distillery where they distilled it versus the source product. And this distilled product that, according to them, is their first release, is fantastic. So that's going to do it for my little tasting here. Thank you all for tuning in. I've got a few things to tell you. The top 100 blind tasting is going to be December 27th. Will this one make it? Most likely. This will most likely make it. Yeah. And I'll tell you, tune in to find out. And, I keep telling myself I need to do it differently. I need to break it up. But I'm like, I keep getting closer and closer, and I don't have any plans for it. So it's probably just going to be pieced together as it is usually, just a bunch of glasses and a couple friends pouring for me in there, and me just trying not to pass out from drinking too much. So it's probably not the best idea to drink 100 products like that on live television or a live stream. But hey, if you got a better idea, put it in the comments. Happy to consider it. That's going to do it, though. Be safe out there, and prayers to my Oklahoma State football program. Cheers.